This is 10 years over the life of the LEDs, and I'm going 50 years down over here on the life of the green water heat recovery system, because it's going to save money for a longer period of time. Does that make sense?
So you have electric heating for your water, I take it by this analysis?
Yes. Good point.
But that's a sunk cost, you're spending that no matter what.
Well, but if we reduce the amount of electricity we're spending on heating, it would save us some money. I'll explain how the drain water heat recovery works later. Well, I think Vivian's been through the presentation of it here today. So, I said net present value, which is this number down here, is the difference between the cost and the savings. So I took the cost, which is $500, and that's money today, right? We said that's money today, so here's the present value of the $500 I spent on LEDs. Here's the net present value of this cash flow here, right? And, or the present value of this cash flow, the net present value is the difference between the cost and the benefits. So I get my 1,585, right? Make sense? Okay. The other thing we know, the other decision Murray wanted was how much energy would it save. The light bulb decision over 10 years saves 20,000 kilowatts in total. The drain water heat recovery saves 70 because it's there for a longer period of time, right? It's there for 50 years. This one's here for 20. Make sense? So this is about 1/3 of this, say. And this is about 1/4, less than 1/4 of this. The net present value here is about 1/4 of this one. That make sense? So don't worry about the calculations. This is just a function in Excel, or you can use a table. You get some, if you got a high school student in your home, you can get them to do this. It's pretty basic stuff, but it's basically doing the net present value. So if we go back to our table now, just type in here. So we said the LEDs were about a 20 here, right? Because they're really easy to install. We said this would be about a 10. On the economic benefit, we said green water heat recovery was about 4 times higher than the light bulbs. So let's give drain water heat recovery a 30, and this would be 1/4 of 30, which is, let's say 8, just to make it easy. Right? I'm being a little easy on this. On the energy savings, we said drain water heat recovery was more dollars by about 4 times, right? I'm sorry, energy savings about 3 times. Is that right? Yeah, energy savings are 3.5 times, say, higher. So if we score this a 50, we could say, whoops. We could score this. Say 1/4 would be, 1/3 would be what, 15, say, just roughly. Okay. So you can see on our scoring criteria now, green water heat recovery scored higher on energy, scored higher on economic benefit, but it's harder to install. So it scored in total 90 points, the LEDs scored in total 45 points. Which one would you buy if you're Murray? It's pretty easy, right? But yet if you try to make that decision and, without doing a bit of number crunching, it wasn't really tough number crunching, I'd sit down and think it through, you might have made a better decision. You'd have probably gone with the light bulbs because it's easier, right? As Vivian said. Any questions on that process and how we went through it?
I suppose, though, that people would also take into consideration how long they're going to be in the house.
Very good. I love it, just like I set her up before, right?
Oh, no.
Okay, so what if? So let's take a look at a couple of options. So what if Murray's cost of capital is 14? So I said typically an owner, a home would look at their cost of capital as their cost of that loan, right? So your mortgage or whatever you're paying for that interest. A business, however, typically has what they call a threshold. So they're saying, I don't want to invest in anything because my shareholders, we've got to make money for everybody. we're not gonna invest anything, let's say, than less than 14%. So what happens when we change that cost of capital? So if I'm looking for 4%, that means when I offered you $10, $20 today, or I offer you $20 a year from now, if you're saying 4%, you'd probably give me $19 today. If I said I wanted a 14.5%, you would probably give me $17 today instead of $19 for the same $20 bill a year from now, because you've got a different threshold, right? Does that make sense? So if we go back to this, and we just change Murray's cost of capital, let's just watch how the numbers change here. When I put this at 14%, what would you expect would happen in net present value? Would it go down or up? What's it likely going to do? Go down or up when I have a higher cost of capital? You think it through. Remember I said if I give you $1 a year from now, you'd probably give me 95 cents. If I've got a higher cost of capital, I give you $1 a year from now, you'd probably give me 85 cents, right? So we're expecting it to go down.
I think you're putting the number in the
Yeah.
wrong cell.
That's gonna be a quicker payback.
Oh,
right?
Jesus. Yeah, okay. Thank you. See, good thing I stopped. Okay, I've been confused. Okay, so see what happened there with my different cost of capital. Remember, this was a big decision, big gap. It was about 4 times higher before, right? But a higher cost of capital, these become a lot closer because my cash flows are further out. As you go further out in time, that money's worth less. So that can be an impact, right? Let's change this back to 4%. What happens if Murray says, as Vivian did, we're going to move out in 7 years? Did you pick 7 or did I just pick 7?
You picked 7.
I picked 7. I just said that to you. So if I'm going to say I'm moving out in 7 years, which is very unfortunately the way most of us think when we're investing in some of these technologies. Well, I'm out of here in 5 years, why would I spend that money, right? So we're making decisions based on a 5 or 7 year threshold, and how does that change the decision? If I go to the 7-year version of this, and we cut that off at 7 years, first thing you see is that we're now going to LEDs instead of rainwater heat recovery. So we're making the wrong decision in terms of what's best for the environment, what's best for the long-term economic decision, because we've shortened our timeline and our thinking. And unfortunately, most homeowners think that way. They say, I'm not going to spend this money because I'm not going to get the payback till later. Right? So we're making some bad decisions because we don't think long-term on these homes. But the reality is, if we spent that money, the world would save that energy. We spent the money on that drain water heat recovery, we're going to save that energy from the world for a long time. But we've made the decision based on a selfish thinking of 7 years.
Is there a way after 7 years you can get cash back? Say that in 7 years when you sell the house you recover $900 from this.
Okay, so the question, what you're asking for is, can I get my payback on that? Can I get my money back on that? So you wouldn't actually charge the homeowner you're selling to for that drain water heat recovery, but if somehow the house was worth more, we did something that the house was worth more.
Yeah, like I'm thinking because it's going to increase your house's Energuide rating or
Exactly.
reduce your energy bills or something, and you can show the potential buyer.
So that's a big dilemma, right? So how do you do that? How do we finance that? So one interesting thing, I studied in Germany for a couple of weeks on the passive house technology stuff. One of the interesting things they're doing there is that you cannot build, or you cannot sell a home. So whether it's a new home or a used home, you cannot sell a home. It's not an like we have an Energuide rating from 0 to 100. They have its watts per square meter or something. I'm not sure how it works. But you have to declare the rating on that house, the energy rating on consumption on that house when you sell it, whether it's new or used. When you sell a home, you have to rate it. So that suddenly puts in everybody's mind, well, this house is worth more because I'm saving 1,385 kilowatt hours of electricity a year in the wall, no maintenance required, nothing to do, and this house is going to save me right away. You know, and their energy is $25, 25 cents a watt, not 10 like ours. So Yeah, kilowatts, so they've got a whole different